Looking to learn Splunk?
Yes!
Let's fix that fast. If you want to level up, you have to start somewhere. I'm not here to bore you with slides and theory. You need hands-on skills, ASAP.
I put ASAP on my tab.
Today, we're installing Splunk Enterprise on Windows and using Splunk's Botsv3 Dataset packed with real-world security logs. Then, we'll run queries, build dashboards, set up brute force and ransomware alerts. By the end, you'll be using Splunk like a pro. If that sounds good, hit like and subscribe. It helps a ton. Splunk Enterprise is totally free. While it says 60 days on the website, you'll actually get a prompt to continue going after that 60 days when your time runs out. So we're going to start here. Just download Splunk. All right, I've already gone through this and I've run to the end. You'll be prompted for credentials. Make sure you pass those in. And from here, Splunk is actually installed. It's literally as simple as running the executable. And now we're going to browse to Splunk. So in your browser, you're just going to go localhost over port 8000. So 127.0.0.1 port 8000. Once you log into Splunk, you'll want to click search and reporting. However, you're not going to have any information here. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to import the Botsv3 version 3 dataset with tons of juicy security alerts. Here's the GitHub repository for the Splunk Bots version 3 dataset. And of course, I'll have this link down in the description. Once you're here, all the installation instructions are provided. It's very simple. The key thing here that you need to know is after you download and unzip the files in the appropriate folder, you need to search for index Botsv3. And that's going to be our starting point. And this is enough to literally get you up and running with Splunk and some valid security data that you can start working on right away. Now, to make sure your Botsv3 dataset did import properly, just search index Botsv3, set the timeline to all time, and you should now start seeing data populate here in Splunk. All right. We know that the data is working. So let's say we want to do a search and we want to look for something. Let's look for anything that contains the word error. It's literally as simple as typing the word error after we've declared our index. And you'll see now we get these results with error. That's so good. Let's refine our search a little using fields. And if you don't know, fields will help us drill down into the data if we want logs from a specific host. You can see here on the left that we're actually provided with some fields in advance under selected fields, interesting fields, and more fields. But we're given the more populated fields as a key reference here on the left. Let's say we want to search for a host. We would simply just type up here, we would say index Botsv3, and we could type the host we're looking for. I just know there's a serverless host. But if you don't know what hosts are there, or you just want to know in general, you can just click the selected field on the left here and see what hosts are actually available. And you would just click on a host and there you go. You have a search that's searching the Botsv3 dataset for anything that contains error and host serverless. Okay, if we maybe want to search for errors but exclude certain terms, we can simply add the not function. Let's say we don't want anything to do with AWS logs. So the way we can actually do this is just click source type, and we can just specify that we want to exclude this field by typing not. We just click on the field and add it. So there we go. Wow. So Splunk really shines with data aggregation. Let's count events by source type. What we're going to do is use the stats command. So we're going to use a pipe character here, the stats command, and count by source type. We want to learn more about the sources of information in this data set. And you can see here, it was literally that simple. When you call stats, it just creates this beautiful visual for you. What if we want to track user authentications across hosts? Well, we can actually group events with transactions because it can be really hard to look through some long lists, especially if we're looking for kind of some patterns. The way to do this is to actually call our index, of course, a pipe, and then time chart, and count by source type. And check this out. Wow. This ties together the different source types that were going on and on what days they happened. Maybe we want to compare what source types were firing the most on certain days. All right, and here's an example of the transaction command. So of course, the same index, but we're going to actually call a specific source type, which is win event log security, event code 24 or 25. So this is fail and success for authentications. And we're going to do stats count by user event code All right, we're going to call index botsv3 a source type that we pick, in this case, Windows event logs, security, event codes for successful and failed login attempts. And we're going to use transaction to say, hey, cluster together the hosts and show us the transactions that occurred within one another of 30 minutes and put this in a table with time, account names, host, event code, and duration. If we run this, voila, you can see our time, the account name that was involved, the host that they were trying to authenticate with, and the event code that was generated if they passed or failed, and how long in seconds the grouping of transactions with this host and account name persisted. Super cool stuff. All right, now that we've covered searching and analyzing data, let's take it a step further with Splunk dashboards. Dashboards transform raw data into interactive visuals, making it easier to spot trends and insights at a glance. Let's build one together. To start, go to the Dashboards tab and click New Dashboards. You'll see it. It's the icon right up here on the top right. We're going to give it a meaningful name. In this case, we'll say Host Authentication Attempts. And we'll just, the private or standard, we'll just make it standard. I don't have anyone else using this. Oh, and we're going to select, so we have two options here. We're going to go with the classic dashboard for now. We're just going to keep it simple. We don't want to get too carried away, especially if you're new to Splunk. It can be overwhelming. All right, you can see that we have a dashboard, but there's no information here. Let's add a panel. So we're going to click the Add Panel button, then select New to create a custom panel. So we're going to click New, and why don't we go ahead and try something like a bar chart. I might regret this, but let's try it out. Let's try a line chart. I think it might work better for what I have in mind. What we'll do is we now need to enter our search string. We'll keep it simple with just failed and successful event log code. So we're going to add this to the dashboard. Oh, search string is required. All right, so one easy way to test our query before we add that panel to the dashboard is just to go new search and try typing it in. So here I'm going to type index botsv3 pipe time chart count by status code. And we can see right now that like all the web traffic was just August 1st. And then it kind of fell off between August and September. And if we scroll down on this list here, you can see we had one request, oddly enough, in 2019. And then looks like the rest were in 2018. So that's really odd. But what we can do is we can actually save this as to an existing dashboard. And we'll find our host authentication temps here. We'll just use this one as an example, and we'll say save to dashboard. We'll view dashboard. And there it is. There's our visual. While this may not seem very friendly, there's a couple things we can do. We can rename panels by clicking the panel tiles and searching edit. We can change colors in the visualization settings for better readability, and we can set auto refresh so data updates in real time, which is super cool. All right, let's try making another cool dashboard. So we're going to take this query here, which is just Windows event code 4624, which is a successful login, and we're going to turn this into a dashboard. So let me show you here. Let's head over to dashboards. We could just save it directly in there, but we're going to do this manually. We're going to go host authentication attempts. And we will create, so we've already created a dashboard. We're going to add a panel now. We're going to go edit, add panel. New item. Let's try an area chart. We'll paste our string in here. Make sure our time is set to all time or it's not going to work. We'll run the search. We just want to make sure it works, which is perfect. We'll add to dashboard. It worked. And wow, look at that. That's awesome. So let's give it a title now. Let's name this Successful Logins Over Time. Great. And we would save this. And there it is. And what makes this great is there's no inputs or tokens needed. It's visually appealing. And we get a general idea of what machines were kind of out of the normal or expected range of behavior. And you can see our machines defined in the legend on the left. This is so cool. Being able to create dashboards like this is a way to add so much value to your organization, especially as a security analyst if you're responsible for Splunk. We're going to take things a step further by setting up alerts using this Botsv3 Dataset. Alerts will help us respond to security threats in real time by detecting suspicious activity across our logs. Now, granted, this is a static data set, so nothing's actively feeding in. Just keep that in mind as we go through this exercise together. We're not going to be generating real-time prompts on real-time data intake. Let's start by generating a basic alert to just look for failed login attempts. We'll create a basic search query here, which will be index Botsv3, event code 4625, which is failed login attempts, and we'll pipe that into stats count by account name. And you can see here it shows us our account names and how many failed login attempts they had. Let's convert this to an alert. It's very easy. Once our search is down, we simply just click Save As Alert. It's literally that simple. We're going to name this Brute Force Detection. Brute Force Detection Alert. We'll set the trigger condition to trigger when the account is greater than, we could say 1. That would be crazy to do in a real environment, but we'll just run that. Do note that if you don't know the expiry here, this is how long the alert will hold that active query for you to go back and retrospectively review, but we're not going to worry about that today. Some of the trigger actions, however, that we could add under, you can see here, add action. So what happens when when there's more than one failed login attempt, and we could set things up like send an email, a webhook into our Slack or SIM, some type of alerting there. We could even run a script to block the IP. But right now we just want to be notified. So we'll just click save. Oh, we have to enable one action. Let's go ahead and say, we'll just say add this to triggered alerts list as how about a low severity for now. We'll save that. Well, great. We will view alert. So what we can do for actions is, let's say we want to, firstly, let's send an email. Well, I don't actually have information here to fill out, but that's one approach we could certainly take. Maybe we want to run a script to just literally block the IP. For this, we'll keep it simple. We're just going to say, hey, add this triggered alert to a triggered alert list. Now, if we jump over to the alert section, we can see our alert. Wow, how cool is that? Okay, let's step things up a little. We can also create an alert for ransomware related behavior, like mass file encryption. Let me show you a simple search that actually finds events where many files were modified quickly. All right, for this search here, I'm doing our index, of course, Botsv3. Our source type would be file modifications, and we'll do a stats count by file path user, and where the count is above 50. So we're looking for a file that's been modified along with another 50 files just back to back, like very quickly. However, we don't see that in the case of the Botsv3 dataset, but this would be one way to create an alert when multiple files are rapidly modified. And of course, the way to do this would just be to go save as. You save it as an alert. We would call this mass file encryption alerting. We'd say, if it triggers, how about more than 50 times? Because that's what we're looking for. We could add an action for now. We'll just say add to the triggered alerts, but we might want to send an email with like a high severity, for example. And there we can go and we can view our alerts. And great, we can see right there, mass file encryption alerting. There we go. So that's just been a very brief overview of ways to use Splunk if you're a beginner. If you've liked this or found this interesting, please like, comment, or subscribe. I'll be releasing more Splunk content down the road.